Welcome to Getting Out of Grad School Intact. My name is Maiken, and once again, I'm your friendly graduate school tour guide. In this episode, titled Creating the Monster, we will talk about all things dissertation and thesis. By this point, you have realized that you have entered the do or die trying zone of your graduate experience. And for the next few remaining semesters, you will eat, breathe, and sleep your topic. So make sure you love it. If this is a topic you just kind of like, by the time you are done, you will hate it. We're going to break this down into 5 phases: research, writing, and more writing, pre-defense, defense, and post-defense. We're going to start with the birth and development of your thesis and dissertation. Now, according to the graduate catalog, we roles and responsibilities of your committee chair and your committee members. What are your responsibilities to them? Yes, this is a two-way street. It is a dirty little secret, but your final project, be it pro paper, capstone, thesis, or dissertation, is in reality a team project. This is one of the hardest things for some students to realize and accept. The degree to which your chair and your committee are involved varies greatly by student. From the simple looks good, but I want you to expand on this footnote, all the way to the point where if your culminating project were a paper, they would be first author. Go into this phase with the following thought and mantra: no matter what there will be things you will want to change. You will, without a doubt, pull your dissertation or thesis off a shelf in 5 years from now, and the very first page you open it up to, you will find something that you want to fix. But the biggest thing you need to remind yourself, if you walk away with nothing else, a good or dissertation is a done thesis or dissertation. So let's start with research. I am here to share with you something that would seem counterintuitive and might appear as if I am making a joke. But there is such a thing as too much. At some point, you need to call it. You have gathered the data you need and you need to start writing. However, for some, that may be easier said than done. Be honest with yourself when you find yourself stuck in research gathering mode. Are you avoiding writing, or are you simply still generally looking for more data? By the time you have come to the active writing stage, your post-prospective defense, the vast majority of your research should have been done. If you find yourself still deep in the depths of research and haven't written anything, you may want to take a beat, step away, and when you return, make it hard for you to get distracted by the research by turning the Wi-Fi off on your computer, for example, or better yet, go completely analog. Grab a notebook and a pen, whatever you need to start putting. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got as a student was given to me as an undergrad. I had just turned in my first writing assignment in a very long time and was nervous if it was written at a junior level. I revealed this to my English professor as I handed him my paper. He looked at me and said, "Just remember that writing is 80% confidence. If you do not have confidence in your writing, it will show and you will make errors." That is something that he, once again, serving as a member of my committee, had to remind me of. After a bad experience with my thesis chair, I had lost the confidence I had developed as a writer. It is strange how fragile your confidence is when it's challenged by someone you hold in respect. I have worked with many students writing their thesis and or dissertations, and each had their own way of approaching the task. Here are some tips I myself have used and a few that some of my students have used and found that worked for them. We're going to start with location. Everyone's approach to this is different and often changes as you progress through your writing. Try different locations. What best works for you? Do you need to be somewhere surrounded by activity and energy? Do you need somewhere completely quiet to focus? Or do you need a mix of both? My location varied writing process. If I was in the flow and didn't want to be interrupted, I would often stay in my office after hours and write. It was quiet, and being in the office kept me in work mode. Some students like to book the study rooms on campus, blocking them off at specific times for the semester, which helps make writing feel routine. Some students, myself included, found it difficult to write at home as there always seemed to be distractions. I know someone who, while dissertating, found themselves with the urgent need to alphabetize their spice cabinet before they could focus on writing. When I am struggling to focus, I would change up my writing location. My favorite place to frequent when I was feeling stuck was a hookah lounge. They had loud Lebanese music videos playing on all the TVs, large tables, and a long cushioned banquette sitting lounge area where students would post up. I would order a hookah, some feta fries, and a Dr. Pepper, pull out my laptop, spread my books and articles on the large table, and stay for hours writing. One last tip. Always have a notebook or something close to you, as you never know when your best idea is going to occur. Mine always seems to come when I'm in the shower or I'm trying to turn my brain off so I can sleep. I am still looking for a waterproof notepad if anyone knows where I can find one. Next, let's talk about what to do when you hit the wall. One of the best ways to kill your writing flow is to edit as you go. This definitely impedes the vibe and energy of your writing. Write until you feel like you have reached a natural stopping point. When you hit this point, you will know. Just listen to where the research is telling you it wants to go. When you hit this point, go back and read what you have written. Do some light editing, as it will often help restart the flow. Writing is organic. Allow it to be. Don't force it. I have found that when you find yourself in the edit restart phase, it helps to take a day or two where you don't touch it and come back to it with fresh eyes. Print off a copy and edit from the hard copy. Also, ask someone, preferably someone who has little to no knowledge of your topic, to read it for you and note where you go off road or things are not clear, or where you have not taken your thought all the way to the end. I am a firm believer that we know what we want to say and are trying to say, and as such, we tend to read our intentions as much as we do the words on the page. In short, you can't edit yourself. When I work with students, I commonly find myself writing the following phrases on their paper. Sure, but why should I care? Often on our documents, we forget to translate our passion for the topic or assume that our readers are as passionate or as knowledgeable as we are on our topic. The second thing I find myself noting is the students' use of filler words, the one which tends to plague students the most, the word that. For the record, that is a pointer word. So unless you are directly pointing to something in your writing, do not use it. Next, let's talk about what happens when you get stuck. Writer's block happens to everyone and seems to happen most frequently when we have applied as much pressure as we possibly can to ourselves. If you are here, know that it is temporary. Here are a few tips and tricks I have students try and I have tried myself. Tip number 1, and this is my first go-to. Write a Dear John letter to your topic. Tell it about all of its bad habits, how the relationship has become toxic, and why you are breaking up with it. This seems silly, but it helps get out the little frustration we have and has been known to spark an idea or two, rekindling the romance. Tip number 2, Write a guide to a child or a boomer as if it were a puzzle. Tip number 3, turn off the laptop. Pull out a pen and a notebook. Even better yet, combine tips 1 and 2 with tip number 3. Tip 4, do something physical. Cry, scream, curse, bake bread or cookies. Even better, eat something healthy and take a nap, because chances are by this point you have been living on minimal sleep, Twizzlers, coffee, and Dr. Pepper. No, wait, sorry, that was me. Regardless of your poison, the fact remains by this point, more than likely, you have been functioning on junk, and our bodies can only function like this for so long. So eat an apple and take a nap. The next thing I want to talk about is something that at first blush seems like common sense, but I have found we often take those things for granted. Invest in a good USB drive that is just for your dissertation or thesis, and not your favorite auntie's famous apple pie recipe. On this USB drive, save all of the versions of your writing drafts, as you never know if a path you started way back then but didn't finish ends up being the right path after all. Save all your digital sources and your presentation for your defense. In addition to your USB, save all of the versions to another external source, like your email, Google Drive, or a digital Dropbox. I cannot tell you the number of students who have had to start from scratch because their computer crashed. I once knew a student only to a USB drive that hung from a keychain that they had a really bad habit of twirling around their finger when they were talking. One day, they dropped their USB drive down an elevator shaft and it shattered. Fortunately for them, they had a professor who only wanted to read printed copies of their work, and they were able to recover almost all of their thesis. They just had to spend hours retyping 50 pages. Another thing that people don't tell you can do is you can hire a hired gun. It is perfectly okay to hire an editor to review what you believe to be the final. Not cheap. They typically charge up to $70 an hour. If you decide to use one and can't afford it, I highly recommend you do so. If you choose to use one, there is one important thing you need to remember. Do not work on the document while they are reviewing it. I had a student who once hired me to edit their dissertation and kept sending me edits while I was reviewing their document. After the third time, I threatened to levy a tax on top of the hourly rate. Know that an editor will typically read the document all the way through at least once before they take a red pen to it. This process, depending on the length of the document, can take anywhere between 4 to 6 hours each pass, or $400 to $500 a read, which is why I always suggest doing it once and at the end. If you cannot afford an editor, and many of us cannot, use the Writing Center at your school and make friends with someone you can trade papers with. Now that we are almost done, you have typed that last sentence and you have sent it off to your chair to review. What do you do now? I know it is hard. At this point, you do nothing. Once you have handed it off to your chair, do not touch your document. Instead, while you are waiting to get the go-ahead to send to your committee and schedule your defense, take a moment and plan for your defense. Pull out a calendar. Let's get a time started. Your chair is allotted 2 weeks or 10 business days to read the document. Chances are, since you've been working closely with them, they will waive this time and instead do it in a shorter timeline. Your committee, on the other hand, will use the entire 10 days. At least that is how they are going to plan for it. Now look to see when it is due to the graduate school or to your graduate coordinator. Lastly, pick a day or two in between that allows you a few days to make edits. When your chair gives you the go-ahead to send your document to the rest of your committee, in an email, include the days and times you've selected and ask what day and time works best for each of them. Once you get that information back, book the room where you are defending and let the admin or graduate coordinator know. While your committee is reviewing your masterpiece, arrange to meet with your chair to pregame areas where you may be challenged or quizzed so you can prepare. Prepare any presentation that you'll be required to give alongside your research. Defense Day. The day that you have been waiting for has finally come. If you can, take the whole day off. Trust me, you will need it. You will need it. Print your dissertation or thesis out and place it in a 3-ring binder. Bring that binder and a pen with you to your defense. When your committee asks for clarification on a thought or note a typo, having that binder allows you to quickly turn to that page and refresh your memory or notate the error to correct later. If the committee gets into a discussion about your topic amongst themselves, let them talk it out. Join in after hearing the full discussion. This does 2 things. It will often resolve whatever issue or concern member of your committee. 2, it eats up your defense time. Lastly, and I cannot stress this enough, as soon as you walk out of defense, all the sleep deprivation and mental exhaustion you've accumulated over the last 1 to 5 years will be waiting for you on the other side of that door. You will be tanked. I used to have students try to do it all in one day, their defense, and then meet with me to go over all format and edits. I would give them the same warning, and all but one ended up canceling their appointment. The one who didn't, couldn't, as she had a flight out the next morning. Instead, take the day off. You have earned it. Once you have recovered, now the fun stuff comes, the edits and revisions. Without doubt, there will be feedback and edits requested from your committee. If all goes well, most of the time these will be minor. Work with your chair and discuss what edits you need to make and in what time frame. Depending on your school and your defense date, you should make an appointment with the thesis or dissertation coordinator and have them review your document. Hopefully, you have been working with dissertation guide or handbook for your university, as this part is the frustrating fine-tooth combing I spoke of earlier, which is compounded by your being done and done. Hopefully, you've allotted yourself enough time between your defense and the deadline to submit your final copy to graduate school or your college's graduate coordinator. Once you have submitted your final copy for review, don't touch it. Once you get your comments and revisions back from the thesis or dissertation person, you typically will have 48 hours to make corrections, if any, and resubmit. This is important. Know what the catalog says about the role of every person involved in your thesis or dissertation process. I have often spoken with students who have had an overzealous thesis reader or reviewer, and in truth, it was those experiences which prompted my creation of this guide. They your content. Grammar, yes. Citations, yes. Headings, yes. Format, also yes. Content, no. That is the purview of your committee, and if they have approved it, you cannot edit your content without getting it reapproved. Now that we're on this subject, what do you do if your defense goes sideways? In theory, your chair shouldn't allow you to proceed to defense if you are not ready, but I cannot say it hasn't happened before. If this happens, work with your committee chair and your committee to see what you need to do to pass. Speak with the dean of the graduate school and your department chair. Learn what your options are. From my experience, the problem lies from inner conflict within the committee over an area in your research that a member of the committee feels you did not address. Sometimes the solution will require you to register for another dissertation class to address the deficiency notated by the committee member. I do want to stress that this is a rarity, as your chair should not allow you to proceed to defense if you're not ready. That said, in my many, 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 many moves in graduate education, I've only witnessed this to happen twice. Thank you for listening, and join me next time when we talk about all the things that nobody tells.